Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we will talk about securing MCP server tools. In my last video, I created 3 tools. 2 tools are public and 1 tool is a secure tool. Then in program files, we implemented some authentication logic, and based on the roles, we applied a policy. And if the current user has this role, then we show and hide MCP server tool. We implemented this in Azure Entra. So I created 2 app registration. One is the server app registration, and we define a role. Then we created a client app registration. This client app has permission to that role. And then we created a client ID and secret. And based on these credentials, we generated an access token and pass that in the header when we call the MCP server. I have explained everything in that video, and the link to that video is available in the comments. So this was implemented with Azure, but today we will do the same thing but with AWS. So let's get started. We'll give you a quick demo of what we are doing in this video. So I have created 4 MCP server tools. 2 tools are public and 2 tools are secure. And for the security, we are using Authorize attribute, which has a policy with this name. So in my Postman, I have this access token URL and client ID and secret, and then I have scopes. So I have 2 scopes. One is this one, and this is the second one. So if I provide both scopes and get an access token, click on connect. If I go to messages, I can see 4 different tools available. 2 tools are public and other 2 are secure tools. So if I go back to authorization and I disconnect, in my scope, if I just provide secure tool 1 scope, get a new access token, I can see only secure tool 1 is available. If I go back to authorization and in scope, if I change it to secure tools 2, get a new access token, connect, I can only see secure weather tool 2. And if I don't pass any scope, leave it empty, I can see only public tools are available. Secure tools are not available. So we will implement this in AWS. I already have created a project in previous video, and I already created a class weather tools, and I defined these tools. So if you don't know how to create MCP server and tools, check out my previous video or go to the playlist that has complete detail of everything. So I'm going to comment out this tool first. So now we have only public tools available. And in my program file, this code is for Entra. So I'm going to comment out this. And I think that's it. So let's run it first. So we should only see the public tools. We can only see public tools available. So that is all good. Now we have to add some security, but before that, let's go to AWS. Log into your AWS console and click on Cognito. You can't see it here, just search. I have already created a user pool, but if you can't see your user pool, you can create a new one. In our scenario, we are going to click on machine to machine application and specify a name here and click on create user directory, and that will create an application pool for you. So once you have your pool, you need to create app clients. So let's create a new app client. This will be machine to machine application. Leave this checked and click on create app client. Our app client is now ready. Now let's generate an access token. So there is an example here. So copy this URL, go to your Postman. In Authorization tab, click on OAuth 2.0 and in grant type, select client credentials and paste your access token URL here. And copy your client ID. Copy your client secret. Now we need to define scope. On your left hand side, you will see a section for domain. I already have a resource server. I will create a new one. Click on create resource server. So copy this name, paste it here, make it lowercase, and replace spaces with hyphen. You can create a scope here, or you can create the resource server first and then create the scopes. So click on create resource server and click on that, click on edit, and you can add scopes here. So click on add custom scope. So we will create 3 different scopes. Let me uncomment this one. So this would be secured weather tool 1, and the policy name would be weather secured 1. This would be weather secure 2. This will be secure tool 2. This is secure tool 1, and this will be 2 as well. Okay, just copy that name, weather secure 1. So you can define your own name, that's not a problem. So that will be a scope name. So weather secure 1 scope. Copy and paste. So this would be secure 2 scope. And then you create a default scope. Okay, once we have all three, click on Save Changes. Okay, so we have created a resource server and defined 3 scopes. Now go back to your app clients, click on the app, go to login pages, click on Edit, and you will see your scopes here. So the scopes we have created is this, this, and this. So we created these 3 scopes. So select those and click on Save Changes. You will see them here. Okay, so this configuration part is now done. Now let's go back to access token. So we need a scope here. I can copy these two. You don't need to copy the default one. Paste here and make sure you add a space between them. So the secured one scope, then a space. Make sure there is no enter character. It's better you copy this and do it in Notepad. So copy that, paste here. So these should be separated by a space. So copy this string and paste it here. And I think that's it. Just type the token name, call something. I call it general, and click on get new access token. Proceed. Copy this token and open JWT.io. So this website is used to inspect the token. So once I paste the token here, I can see that the scopes we have provided, they are there now. Okay, so that part is also done. Now let's go to Visual Studio and go to Program.cs and start making changes here. Okay, first thing we need is authority. So this is I'm reading from configuration value, and the key is authentication and then authority. So I have created a function here and just takes the key and read from the configuration. So if I go to my configuration file, so this authority I used in the previous demo for Entra. So this now can be replaced with this AWS token. Just copy that and paste it here. Okay, so that's become the authority. Now we need the audience. So go back to your portal, click on domains, and this is your audience. So copy that, replace it here. Okay, so authority and audience is done. Okay, this is for Entra, but I will copy this and then we can make changes. So make sure you install this package. I can show you the name of the package. So this is the package name, Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.Authentication.JWT Bearer. So you need that package installed, and then this will resolve. Okay, we don't need audience here. So authority will be the authority which is coming from that app settings. So this will be true. So this will be validate audience. You can set it to false, and we are okay with this. So these events are optional, but they help in debugging. So we can leave them there. Now let's move to authorization part. So I will copy that and paste it here. So policy name, as we described on the function. So this would be my policy name. So I copy that, paste it here. So this works in Entra, but doesn't work in AWS. So there is a different way. So in policy, require assertion. Okay, so we don't need this. Let's create a function here. So that will return a boolean. So that need authorization context. And required scope, and also need audience. So first thing we'll check if if context dot user dot identity. So if user is not authenticated, then we just simply return false. Don't need to do anything else. Then we are getting scope. So this would be a claim. So these scopes are stored in a string separated by a space. So we are splitting scope here. And now we need to check if it has a default scope or not. So I'm just checking default, but we will need to make a small change because we need to end audience here. We will look into that. So if default scope is available, then simply return false. Otherwise, we are checking scopes or contains whatever the required scope is passed here. And if there are no claims, we are also returning a false. So this is the simplest way, but we will make some changes. So let's call this method now. Okay, so this needs the scope name. So we can take from the Postman or we can take from here. So that is our scope name. One thing you will notice, this is the scope name, but when we generate the token, so that's the scope name, and this is added in the scope. So we need to check this as well. So that's a scope 1, and then we copy and paste. This would be 2, and this would be scope 2. And we also need to make sure that in weather tools, we have the exact same. Yes. Okay, so we added it authorization policies. And the last thing we need to do is when we write these authorized attribute, we also need to enable add authorization filter. And I think that's it. So let me put a breakpoint here and run it. Okay, so MCP server tool is running. Let me create a new token. So we have scope 1 and also the scope 2. Generate a new token, proceed, use token, disconnect, and connect. Okay, so authentication is true. So these are the scope. So there is a scope 1 and then scope 2, and both have this YouTube resource servers and the slash as well, which we stored in the audience. So what we will do here is just append that. I think that's it. Let's go to the next step. Yes, default is not there, which is true. Now we need to do same thing for this section. Now this is the audience and that's the required scope. This should return true, and yes, it returns true. Okay, now let's look the second one, which is now scope 2, and also returns true. Okay, so if everything is correct, then we go to message and we can see both secure tools are available. So we can see public tools, but also see the secure tools. Now go back to authorization and just make a small change in the scope. Just remove the scope 2. So now there is only one scope, which is scope 1. So in that case, so this policy will pass because we have this scope, but this one will fail. So if this fails, that means this policy will fail, and the weather tool with this policy should not be available. Let's have a look. So we remove that scope, get new access token, Proceed, use token. Make sure you disconnect and then connect again. We can remove the breakpoint. And if I go to message, I can see only secure whether tool 1 is available and the 2 public tools are available. Now, if I go back to authorization and I make it secure to scope, in that case, the other tool should be available. Now click on get new access token. Make sure you disconnect and then connect again. And now the secure tool 2 is available. Now what happens if you don't pass any scope at all? So in this case, both secure tools should not be available, and that is where the default tool comes. So if I don't pass any scope, by default, AWS Cognito will return you all scopes, including the default one. So that is why we have a logic here. If it contains the default one, just simply return false. So if I comment this one and run again, so now there is no scope. You can get access token. Now there is no scope available, but we can still see both tools are available, both secure tools are available. So that is the reason here. Let me uncomment and put a breakpoint. So when I pass no scope and try to send a request, if I look at the scope list, it is giving me a list of all scope. So by default, if I don't pass any scope in the token, AWS Cognito will give me all available scopes. So that is the reason we had this default one. You can rename it to no access or minimum or whatever. And you check this one. If this is available, that means user did not pass any scope. And if that is the case, you simply return false, because we don't want to show any tools if there is no scope available. Now both policies will fail and we should not see any secure tool. And that's it. We can only see public tools. And I think that's it for today. Let me quickly rewind what we did so far. So we had a weather tools. So we created 4 tools in total. There are 2 public tools and 2 secure tools. For the secure tools, we created an authorize attribute which takes a policy. We define authority and audience coming from the configuration file, and then we did some standard authentication settings. And in the policy, this is the policy name which is matching the policy name here. And in policy, we are checking required assertion, and that calls a scope method. So this validates scope method we created here. So we checking if user is not authenticated, just simply return false. Then we get the scope of a user, and then we split them by space because scopes are returned separated by a space. So we get a list of all scope and check that if it contains a default scope. Default mean user did not specify any scope. So if there is a default scope available, then return false. Otherwise, we'll check the scope and return the value. And then we tested here. We specified both scope, we specified single scope, and we specified no scope at all. And we can see that different tools are available here. And for the app registration side, you need to go to Amazon Cognito and create a user pool if you don't have. Then you go to app clients and create your app client. That app client will give you client ID and secret. Then you go to domain. You create a resource server, and in resource server, you can define different scopes. And once you define scopes, you can go to login pages, click on edit, and you will see a drop down here and you can choose your scopes. So these are 3 scopes I defined, and there is a list of other scopes as well. So when you select these scope, just select save changes and then you are good to go. So in your app, they have given you an example how to generate tokens. So this is the URL to get the access token. Then you have a grant type. In my Postman, in authorization, I selected OAuth 2.0. You need to choose client credentials. This need access token URL, which is this URL. Then it need client ID, secret, and scopes. So client ID is here, secret is here, and then you specify the list of scopes. And if everything is okay, this should be all working. And I think that's it for today. If you like the video, if you have any question, put in the comments. Please like, share, subscribe. I try to answer all your comments, and see you again in the next video. Bye.